Shalom. May peace, serenity, and prosperity be multiplied unto you all. Kalala Abba Yaba Shema Mashaki wa Shabarakatam Tawarwaba Halwaya. Shema Yasharala Yahwa Ala Hayanawa Kadaba Mashaka. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So here we are, continuing the reading of First Maccabees. We're in chapter 3 today in honor of the Feast of Dedication. This is First Maccabees chapter 3, starting from the top. Then his son, Judas, called Maccabees, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father. And they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him. And he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. In his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp, roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked, and sought them out, and burnt up those that vexed his people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for him, Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. He grieved also many kings, and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them, and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the uttermost parts of the earth. And he received unto him such as were ready to perish. Then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together, and a great host out of Samaria, to fight against Israel. Which thing when Judas perceived, he went forth to meet him. And so he smote him and slew him. Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius' sword also. And therewith he fought all his life long. Now when Serona, a prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Judas had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war, he said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go fight with Judas and them that are with him, who despise the king's commandment. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. And when he came near to going up of Bethron, Judas went forth to meet him with a small company, who, when they saw the host coming to meet them, said unto Judas, how shall we be able, being so few, to fight against so great a multitude and so strong, seeing we are ready to faint with fasting all this day? Unto whom Judas answered, it is no hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few, and with the God of heaven, it is all one, to deliver with a great multitude or a small company. For the victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength cometh from heaven. They come against us in much pride and iniquity, to destroy us and our wives and children, and to spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws. Wherefore the Lord himself will overthrow them before our face. And as for you, be ye not afraid of them. Now as soon as he had left off speaking, he leaped suddenly upon them. And so Sesron and his host was overthrown before him. And they pursued them from they pursued them from the going down of Betharon unto the plain, where were slain about 800 men of them, and the residue fled into the land of the Philistines. Then began the fear of Judas and his brethren, and exceeding great dread to fall upon the nations round about them. Insomuch as his fame came unto the king, and all nations talked of the battles of Judas. Now when King Antiochus heard these things, he was full of indignation. Wherefore he sent and gathered together all the forces of his realm, even a very strong army. He opened also his treasure, and gave his soldiers pay for a year, commanding them to be ready whensoever he should need them. Nevertheless, when he saw that the money of his treasures failed, and that the tributes in the country were small because of the dissension and plague which he had brought upon the land, and taken away the laws which had been of old time, he feared that he should not be able to bear the charges any longer, nor to have such gifts to give so liberally as he did before. For he had abound above before the kings that were before him. Wherefore, being greatly perplexed in his mind, he determined to go into Persia, there to take the tributes of the countries and to gather much money. So he left Lysias, a nobleman, and one of the blood royal, to oversee the affairs of the king from the river Euphrates unto the borders of Egypt, and to bring up his son Antiochus until he came again. Moreover, he delivered unto him the half of his forces and the elephants, and gave him charge of all things that he would have done, as also concerning them that dwelt in Judah and Jerusalem, to wit, that he should send an army against them to destroy and root out the strength of Israel and the remnant of Jerusalem, and to take away their memorial from the place, and that he should place strangers in all their quarters, and divide their land by lot. So the king took the half of the forces and remained, and departed from Antioch, his royal city, the 147th year. And having passed the river Euphrates, he went through the high countries. And Lysias chose Ptolemy, the son of Diomenes, Nicanor, and Gorgias, mighty men of the king's friends. And with them he sent 40,000 footmen and 7,000 horsemen to go into the land of Judah and to destroy it, as the king commanded. So they went forth with all their power, and came and pitched by Emmaus in the plain country. And the merchants of the country, hearing the fame of them, took silver and gold very much with servants, and came into the camp to buy the children of Israel for slaves. A power also of Syria and of the land of the Philistines joined themselves unto them. Now when Judas and his brethren saw that miseries were multiplied, and that the forces did encamp themselves in their borders, for they knew how the king had given commandment to destroy the people and utterly abolish them, they said one to another, let us restore the decayed fortune of our people, and let us fight for our people and the sanctuary. Then was the congregation gathered together, that they might be ready for battle, and that they might pray and ask mercy and compassion. Now Jerusalem lay void as a wilderness. There was none of her children that went in or out. The sanctuary also was trodden down, and aliens kept the stronghold. The heathen had their habitation in that place, and joy was taken from Jacob, and the pipe with the harp ceased. Wherefore the Israelites assembled themselves together, and came to Maspha, over against Jerusalem. For in Maspha was the place where they prayed aforetime in Israel. Then they fasted that day and put on sackcloth and cast ashes upon their heads and rent their clothes and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. They brought also the priest's garments and the first fruits and the tithes and the Nazarites they stirred up, who had accomplished their days. Then cried they with a loud voice toward heaven, saying, what shall we do with these? And whither shall we carry them away? For thy sanctuary is trodden down and profaned, and thy priests are in heaviness and brought low. And lo, the heathen are assembled together against us to destroy us. What things they imagine against us, thou knowest. How shall we be able to stand against them, except thou, O God, be our help? Then sounded they with trumpets and cried with a loud voice. And after this, Judas ordained captains over the people, even captains over 1,000s, and over 100s, and over 50s, and over 10s. But as for such as were building houses, or had betrothed wives, or were planting vineyards, or were fearful, those he commanded that they should return, every man to his own house, according to the law. So the camp removed and pitched upon the south side of Emmaus. And Judas said, arm yourselves, and be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary. For it's better for us to die in battle than to behold the calamities of our people and our sanctuary. Nevertheless, as the will of God is in heaven, so let him do. Review time. Starting from the top. So in 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 1, we see from the very beginning that Judas Maccabeus stepped up in the place of his father after his father's death, who was Mattathias. Verse 6, we see from his valiant step of leadership that all the workers of iniquity, the wicked, decreased for fear of him. They were troubled because the Most High had blessed him with the power of saving his people. Verse 7, he grieved also many kings and made Israel glad with his acts, and his memorial was blessed forever. That's why we're talking about him to this day. The Most High stood true with his word. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel. So in this step up of leadership, he went throughout Judah, destroying all the wicked and turning away wrath from Israel, meaning he was putting the land of Israel back into correction, and those the inhabitants, the children of Israel, in correction. Verse 13, then we had this wicked Syrian, Siron, who was a prince, try to step up to Judas. Once he heard of Judas, he tried to step up to him. And he said he's going to get him a name for challenging and defeating Judas, because Judas despises the king's commandment, who was King Antiochus, who happened to be an ally of Siron. So him and all his host of ungodly men and the heathens made themselves ready to fight with Judas. And when Judas and his men saw it, Judas' men questioned Judas, like, what are we supposed to do? It's a little bit of us, but many of them. What are we supposed to do? On top of that, we've been fasting. We're weakened. So in verse 17, it shows that those who were under the leadership of Judas Maccabees were of little faith at the time when they saw the great multitude that was guided by Prince Saron of Syria. But Judas, being ordained by the Most High, gave them further wisdom. In verse 18, he says, "It is not a hard matter for many to be shut up in the hands of a few. And with the God of heaven, it is all one to deliver with a great multitude or a small company." So he said, we got the power of the Most High. We know Yahweh. They don't know Yahweh. He says, verse 19, "The victory of battle standeth not in the multitude of an host, but strength cometh from heaven." So he's like, yeah, there's a little bit of us right now, but we got greater backup. We got the Most High. Furthermore, he says they come against us with pride and iniquity. So they want to destroy us with pride and iniquity and spoil us. But we fight for our lives and our laws. And the laws was the commandments of the Most High, the heritage of Israel. And then he also tells his company that the Most High himself will overthrow these heathens and ungodly men that come to war against them. You have nothing to be afraid of. This is Judas Maccabees reassuring his company in 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 22, which I just read and paraphrased. So after he smote the host that was led by Prince Saron, he ended up destroying them after that. After reassuring his men, he ended up destroying them, as we read. And then the other nations and everybody round about that region, hearing about Judas Maccabeus, they began to dread him. And all the nations round about them were afraid of him and his company. But when King Antiochus heard these things, as it says in verse 27, he was full of indignation. So then he tried to assemble all his forces to go against Judas Maccabeus. But we see the Most High worked further in the Israelites' favor, because with King Antiochus doing what he did, you know, profaning the laws of the land, or the laws of the Most High that were ordained on the land of Yasharallah, the Most High smote his kingdom with plagues and dissension. So they had dissension and plagues. They weren't acting as a kingdom standing together. They were a kingdom divided. That's what that dissension is. So they were divided and they were plagued because of the wickedness he did in the land of Israel, as he had it under his subjection, doing away with the laws of the Most High to create his own laws and commandments for the people to follow. So he knew his kingdom was weakened by that. As we paraphrase verse 30, he knew he was weakened by that. So with him being perplexed and confounded, he runs to Persia. He runs to Persia to seek assistance. Now, after he runs to Persia to seek assistance, they come back into the land of Yasharallah, do their nasty heathenish work, and conspired to buy the children of Israel as slaves, as verse 41 states. So they succeeded in some of their treachery and further spoiled the land of Yasharallah. Now, as we scroll all the way through, we see that Yerushalayim was further spoiled and destroyed by the work of these heathens, right? As we paraphrase verse 45. And the remaining Israelites who seen this were in great sorrow and misery because of the continued spoiling of Jerusalem by the way of the heathens. And the book of the law that they possessed and spoiled, yeah, they rewrote these books of the law and put their images in the book of the law. Yeah, nothing new is under the sun, people. Verse 48, and laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. So we see that until this day. Anytime you Google one of our ancestors from the Bible, our biblical ancestors, you Google any of our biblical ancestors, you're going to see an image that the heathen painted. You're going to see an image that the heathen drew. The most notable image of the heathen that you can find is the image of Jesus Christ. Just type in Jesus Christ, and if you Google Jesus Christ, you're going to see 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48. Because that's a false image. You Google any one of our ancestors from the Bible, you're going to see the image of the heathen. You're going to see 1 Maccabees chapter 3, verse 48 manifest itself in real time. We've been seeing it. Way even before Google, we've been seeing that. That's been a thing. All right, so that's further verification of this truth that we're reading, all out of our holy manuscript called the Bible. And I'll conclude it there. So we read 1 Maccabees chapter 3, the entire chapter. Now this chapter goes further into the acts of the Maccabees, the Maccabee boys, right? The sons of Mattathias, because they're the ones who led the Maccabean revolution, or the Maccabean revolt by the way of the Israelites, for the Israelites, for the land of Jerusalem, right? I continue to encourage you all to read this for yourself as well, in honor of the Feast of Dedication. But with all that being said, may peace, serenity, and prosperity be multiplied unto you all. Shalom.